All right, welcome to the new programming. This is vote count. That's what we're talking about here at the studio. This year we're going to be covering the election from the standpoint of the mechanics of voting. And we'll be talking about the ABM pens that they're making people use. We'll be talking about machines where you touch the screens. We'll be talking about disenfranchisement issues where people's votes are being purged, just thrown out. We'll be talking about susceptible counties and states and places all over the country where there are problems with either machines or with voting in general. And it's going to be happening here in this space. This is an introduction today. My name is Karthik Rajan, and I'll be your host for this programming. I wanted to start today by talking a little bit about this canvas that's behind me, which is called No Real Choice 2000, and which I painted many years ago. In the election of 2000, I was working in New York City as an artist, and the election was, going on the full year like it is going on now here in 2020, 20 years later. And I was working on a canvas that I planned to it was one of 5 canvases. There's actually another one here. 3 of the others were shown. I think 2 sold. I don't know where the other one is. That were about that year, the year 2000. One was particularly in New York. One was focused on sort of the federal thing that was going on. There was one that was it was focused on China unusually, but in a kind of a unique way. They were canvases, large canvases that I was trying to represent the beginning of the millennium with, And one of them was obviously critically about the election. Well, I was invited to go down to Austin, Texas and install at South by Southwest in the year 2000 at the Movements Gallery. Movements Gallery was on 6th Street. It was just 6 blocks away from the governor's mansion. Okay. So the governor's mansion is there, and the sitting governor, George W. Bush, is running for president. And while he's running for president, he is the single human being who has executed more people than any governor of any state or any president of the nation. I think the number was in the 260, something like that. So he was running for president while maintaining an aggressive policy of death penalty application. And so I wanted to call attention to that in a unique way. There was a 33-foot wall that I had access to, and there was a stairwell because the place was upstairs. And so you'd go climbing up the stairs and you would enter the gallery. And then there was this 33-foot wall at the top of the gallery, and I could do anything I wanted. So my scheme was pretty simple, but it took a lot of effort to kind of pull off. I painted a sign that I called the 8-foot human. They had a board there that was for their placard. Okay, it looked kind of like that. Can you see that? Let's see. So yeah, that looked like that, right? It just stood in front of the building. So I painted that so it said human on it. So this was what we called this the 8-foot human, and it would sit outside the gallery. And there was chalk lines from the governor's mansion to the gallery. And then you came up the stairwell. Here's us painting. And we had text on either side of the stairwell. And there was just enough space to make the letters as you're coming up. So if you're looking from the bottom up the stairwell, you could see that it said human and it said resident, right, coming down. But when you got to the top, there was an E on the left side and a P. So it said humane president when you got to the top of the stairwell. And then you'd look, and just days before the installation, George W. Bush had gone on a late night talk show, and he had said, we must say that we must say life is precious. That was his quote. And he was talking about his stance on abortion, and it applied contextually to his stance on executions in such a bizarre way. So I painted that all the way across the top of the wall there. So it said, we must say, life is precious. Almost like a CNN crawl, George W. Bush, a quote from George W. Bush. And then I built a voting chamber. So it was a curtained rod, big rod. You can see it there. And people would go inside there, and there was a pedestal that had registration cards on it. You'd seen all this stuff, humane president, we must say life is precious. And then inside the voting chamber, that's what the title of the installation was, the voting chamber, was this canvas. Now, that year was the year that the New York Times had gone to color. It had never been in color. It was always, famously known as the Gray Lady. Finally, the New York Times went to color. And so the candidates for president appeared in negative blue one day while they were talking about them. So you have the reverse blue image of Al Gore, George W. Bush, John McCain, and the New York Senator Bill, his name escapes me, the former basketball player, right? And so the logo of the NBA is a white man, even though 80% of the employees are black. And the logo is white. And it struck me as a wonderful parallel to the disenfranchisement of black votes. And so this canvas developed kind of like this: vote not applicable, right? With the logo on it of this company. And the people who are running are all white men, right? And they're all in reverse and made blue, which was kind of fantastic, I thought at the time. And then at the bottom, I painted the element that I think most people really, really appreciate, which is my, again, typical of a lot of the forms I've been making. This is a bar chart, okay? So there you have 1492, all right? And here you have the year 2000 over here at the end, right? Year 2000. Well, the white line starts in 1787, right? And so that's when white men can vote. White, male, property-holding men can vote. And then the blue line is when colored men can vote. Not Native Americans, by the way, and not Latinos who are coming anywhere or been here or any other circumstance. But colored men get the vote in 1870. And that little yellow line over there, that's 1920 right there, folks. That's how long women have been able to vote in the United States of America. And so for the election, this canvas was trying to convey a lot. And what's amazing is 20 years later, it feels just as applicable as we look at the current situation. And so in 20 years, it hasn't changed. In fact, in many ways, it has gotten worse. Now, I was working for George Magazine at the time. And so we covered the election of 2000 very closely. And I have a lot of information about that. We can talk about another day, or you can read about. But I want to tell you what happened with this canvas. Not only did I do all of this, install this, and talk about the death penalty, but I went to visit the people who were doing work on behalf of the death penalty, who were having a talk at the local university. There was hardly anyone there, as you can see. And I introduced myself, there you can see me there, as an artist from New York. And I said, I want to do an anti-death penalty piece here during South by Southwest. I think it would be very smart for us to do that, right? And convey to people, look, man, this is the person you're voting for, do you know what's going on? And talk about the executions. And so here we are doing some installation. And as we did that, we came up with the notion of projecting on the wall a list of the names of the people who will be executed, during the time that the installation would be open. So I went and I found out who would all be executed during the time that this installation would be open. And I liked the idea of it being an ephemeral image. So I projected it onto the wall with a slide projector. So it was just there, less than like painted of the names. But there you can see the names of the people that were scheduled to die in this time period. Well, come to find, Odell Barnes Jr., among the group of people, was a person who it seemed was innocent. And the people at the committee were telling me, look, we've got a really good case here that we really are concerned about. The young man is going, and it doesn't seem to be him. The lawyer has new information. I recorded the lawyer. I made a cassette tape recording of the lawyer. And I put a chair in the installation with a cassette deck. And I had it playing a loop of the lawyer talking about how my client should be given more time. We think he's innocent. A loop with a chair. And on the chair, I had written, Mr. Bush. So I had a chair there for the governor. We had chalk lines from the governor's mansion coming to the place. We had an 8-foot human outside. We had the markings, humane president, as you go up the stairwell. As you get to the top of the stairwell, you can see the names of the people who are being killed. And then you can see across the top the guy running saying, "We must say life is precious." And then my canvas inside the booth. And then the last focal point was Odell Barnes Jr. Now, Odell Barnes' case was extremely screwed up. He had been set up by a woman who was cheating on her husband. And it's a very complicated case. And there was an unusual coincidence, and that is that Odell Barnes Jr., his birthday, March 22nd, 1968, was exactly 364 days after my birthday. I was born on March 23rd of 1967. So he was exactly 1 day, less than 1 year, younger than me. Well, so we began to really talk about this and send people to see the exhibition. During South by Southwest, people went to the exhibition. I had to go back to New York. I did go back to New York. There you can see some sketches of how the installation went, the booth that I made, and so on. And there was a review in one of the local papers of the piece. Okay. I'm going to read to you this thing. This is a review they made in the paper there. Whether you find 6th Street to be a sad or merry symbol of old Austin, urban nighttime chic, it must be said that it does have the urban part down. Many of the buildings are beautiful examples of pre-World War II urban architecture. In fact, these older commercial storefronts with their stone facades, large windows, wood floors, elegant molding, and raised ceilings would make an ideal space for an art gallery. In 1997, Movement's Gallery bravely wedged itself into its present location between the bars and pool halls and restaurants of the 200 block of East 6th. Over the years, the gallery has displayed has played host to a variety of shows, etc. So it's an intro about the gallery. The gallery is currently showing The Voting Chamber, an installation by New York-based artist Karthik Rajan, which combines contemporary visual aesthetics and social activism to comment on the relationship between capital punishment and democratic processes. The piece consists of an assortment of little stations set up throughout the central section of the gallery. A slide carousel projects the names of death row inmates onto a wall. A jam box plays a tape of a defense attorney describing the difficulties of defeating the death penalty, and covering a table are community action pamphlets, Moratorium Now posters, the U.S. Constitution, and anti-death penalty documents. The centerpiece is the chamber itself, 4 curtains which create a mock voting booth. Inside are a stack of voter registration forms next to a wall mural which imitates the NBA trademark with the blue, red, and white illustration of a dribbling basketball player. Except that in Thiagarajan's image there is no B, just N-A. As if to say, in the new America there are no blacks, no basketball. Or maybe it's Now America. The reinterpreted advertisement has a powerful resonance that lends itself to an endless number of sinister interpretations. Quote, the voting chamber works well by itself, though the other items seem more of an afterthought. Information laid out to grab people's attention and galvanize an opposition movement. The work doesn't have any overarching self-referential design that brings the whole thing together underneath the political commentary to ask questions about the experience of looking at art, why we make art, or how art is a powerful tool for change. But on the other hand, that metavision is there if you are looking for it. The title alone brilliantly connects and reframes a constellation of issues. We are all voters, visitors, viewers, participating in the elections and the executions. It's no accident that the installation is being presented in Austin in the spring of 2000. Our present governor has overseen more executions on his watch than any before him. That was by Ben Wilcott in the Austin Chronicle. So it was reviewed. Now we had the situation of Odell Barnes Jr., and there were many people who were activated once they realized what was going on, which brought us to, and again, I was gone at this point, and so I tend to observe it as a maker observes something. There was a massive march of hundreds of people from the gallery all the way around the governor's mansion. For an entire morning and a day, they protested at the governor's mansion during South by Southwest. Okay? Now, the group there had a place they could relate with, and they used the gallery as an element of that. And they spoke about Odell Barnes Jr.'s case. He was scheduled to die on the 1st of March. And they fought. I wasn't there again. My objective was different. As an artist, I believe there is a space between public expression and the activism. I've done both, but when I'm doing one, I don't consider myself to be doing the other, but rather communicating ideas that are missing through the mechanism of communication through art. So Odell Barnes Jr. was scheduled to die, and the day came, and the governor did not stop it, and there was nothing anybody could do. And the state of Texas executed Odell Barnes on the 1st of March. Odell Barnes's last meal request, which is something they record for every one of the death penalty inmates. His last meal request was for justice, equality, and world peace. These were Odell Barnes Jr.'s last words. I thank you for proving my innocence, although it has not been acknowledged in the courts. May you continue in the struggle, and may you change all that's been done here today and in the past. Even now, 20 years later, I carry Odell Barnes Jr. on my shoulder, my little brother, executed by the state of Texas, whom I tried to help and was unable to do so. This canvas will be the backdrop this year, 20 years later, as so many of these themes remain a problem in our country. My name is Karthik Rajan. I'll be going by Karthik Rajan for this program, Vote Count 2020. And that'll be on Twitter at VCount. You can never see this thing. It's too bright. That's why I should put a little red on there. At VCount on Twitter.